Okay, welcome back. For those of you who are not aware, we have a relationship that we value a lot with the Association of National Advertisers, which is called the ANA. And they have an educational foundation that forms a bridge between marketing and advertising industry practitioners with academia. So I mentioned earlier that I was lucky enough to be sort of immersed in a visiting professor program that visited industry last summer. And now we are lucky to have some industry practitioners visiting us throughout the school year. So as part of that campus speaker program, which brings these practitioners to our campuses and our classrooms, I am very pleased to introduce you to Robby Dockery. Robby is the communication strategist at Goodby, Silverstein and Partners, which is a advertising agency, a marketing firm. He is based in LA with a background in higher ed, media planning, strategy, and social media management. He has a wide range, I've shared his bio with you, a wide range of diverse experiences and industries that he's worked in. And today he's going to join us to inspire you all to pursue careers in marketing. I know that you all want to do that. I've already briefed Robby that this is an intro to marketing course. So we do have a mix of majors in here, from finance to accounting to analytics to marketing and management and others. So, you know, everyone's coming at this from a different orientation. So some people, this may be the only marketing class you ever get, and other people, this is going to inspire you to pursue a career in marketing or adjacent to marketing. But at the very least, my mantra is always teaching them not to cut the marketing budget. That's my biggest takeaway. So with that, we're at the point in the semester now that we finished our second exam that we're about to launch into promotion, that fourth P in the 4Ps traditional, you know, framework of looking at the different aspects of the marketing industry. And so we are about a week away from diving into advertising in a big way. So this is an excellent entree to that. And with that, Robby, I will turn the floor over to you, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Stacy, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Class, I hope y'all's exam went really well. This is my presentation on what's my KPI. That's a media term, which is my key performance indicator, and we'll talk about KPIs and all that jazz, but it's just a fun, punny way to get it started. This is going to be a conversation about careers and media landscapes in the agency world. And like Professor Schwartz said, I'm Robby Dockery. I'm a communication strategist at Goodby, Silverstein and Partners, which is located in San Francisco, a full-service advertising agency. So look at the agenda. We just did the introduction. We'll have the breakdown of what Goodby, Silverstein and Partners is, then what's life like at the agencies, and then a little bit of my background and how I got here, and then I'll open up the floor to a Q&A. As part of this program, we encourage you to use the hashtag #LearnWithAEF with any knowledge or any information you want to share across X, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and even a TikTok, but I don't think we need to make TikToks of this conversation. All right, so let's hop in. So we are Goodby, Silverstein and Partners. Before we hop into what an agency is, I have this highlight reel of all the work we've done, and you guys will see a few of your favorite brands in this highlight reel.
Peggy, a little walk. I wouldn't click on that.
What happened?
Well, you missed that. Probably shouldn't have left.
Excuse me?
Aren't you tired of this?
Is this an ad?
Hey, what does this button do?
No, don't.
Waterfall.
Yes. You're an accident. We're not counting them. Oh, very something.
Like this, we're taking the ruble and making it worthless to Russia.
Why don't they make doors that like open themselves?
Last week, I stepped in a bear trap.
The other day, a hornet's nest fell on my head.
Yeah.
I know.
What the?
It's like they never seen a groundhog in a bar before.
Landing.
And cut. I guess that's a wrap.
So that was a quick highlight reel of what we do at P, from brands like BMW to Cheetos to passion projects, including working with Courageous Conversations, what focuses on injustices around the US, and even incorporating AI with the Dali Art Lab exhibit.
Oh, Peggy.
So here's a little bit of history of Goodby, Silverstein and Partners. Our CEO, Jeff Goodby, sort of summarizes our philosophy as the product of our agency is not advertising. It is the tiny reactions that happen in people's heads. So when you see your favorite superstars in your favorite spots, or you see a spot that feels like it's talking to you, that's what we call mass intimacy. And that's kind of why I got into advertising as a profession. It's that little nod to my head where it's like, this message feels like it was directly made for me. And as Goodby Silverstein Partners defines it, it's a message sent to millions, but gives you this astonishing feeling that it's only speaking to you. Goodby Silverstein Partners is located in both San Francisco and New York. Across these two offices, we have about 379 people. And we've won almost every creative award in the business, from the Ad Age A-list to the Cannes and the French Riviera, to the Hall of Fame Agency of the Year, Agency of the Decade, and the Media Agency of the Year. And we are respected among our peers too. A few of our partners that we have are, that you saw in the highlight reel, go from Doritos to BMW to Liberty Mutual to Califia, Kraft Heinz, Gentech, and BBGO. So we have a wide portfolio of clients that we have in-house across both New York and San Francisco offices. So when we look at the agency as a whole, for larger agencies like Goodby Silverstein, we are a full service agency. So we have everything from creative to design to production to strategy, which I'm a part of, to even a labs team, which focuses on incorporating new technology like AI into our day-to-day work. And when we look at the breakdown, we have 5 major groups. We have the account management team. These are the people who are client facing, talking to the clients every day, making sure their needs are met, and they relay the information back to us. We have our creative teams, so the brains behind the work that you see that is inspiring. We have the strategy team, which is what I'm a part of, and that's broken into communication strategy, which is the who and the why and the how. We have the brand strategy, which is the what, so determining what we're gonna do. And then we have research and analytics, which helps us figure out and make database decisions to inform our creative teams. Then we have production, which puts it all together. So that highlight reel was all thanks to production. And then we have our administration, so legal, human resources, and all that jazz. So the work that's an overview of the advertising agency as a whole and what it looks like. To get to that highlight reel and the ads that you see even at the Super Bowl on your TV, and even when you're scrolling through your social media, it all starts at step 1. And step 1 is the client, which is clients like our BMW or Cheetos or Xfinity. They bring a brief to the account managers. And basically what this is saying is, we have an issue, we want y'all to solve it, and this is what we think our problem is. After they get that brief, account management teams comes to the strategist, and we use research and analytics and data to make and define a real problem. So if the client says people aren't buying our product for this, we're going to look into why they aren't buying it, what they are buying, and how we can get them to purchase our product. Or if it's something about getting people to understand something about a campaign, we're also doing that too. After that, we work to create a creative brief. The creative brief is what we give to our creative teams. So all the research and analytics plus what the client problem is compiled into a presentation or even a document for our creative teams to understand what the problem is, how we can solve it, where we might show up. And then it's up to the creative teams to create a spot such as that BMW spot or the Cheetos spot, or even in this year's Super Bowl, the Talkin' Like Walk-In, getting people inspired and wanting to see our work. The creative teams are broken into two different groups. We have the copywriters, which are the people in charge of the words, and then the art directors who are in charge of the looks. They work together hand in hand. They are partners from junior levels all the way to executive seniors. And they work together to make sure we're putting our best foot forward when it comes to the brief. While creative's going through this, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff before we go back to the clients with a pitch and presentation. Our business affairs team, which is part of the administration, is making sure that all of our ideas are legally and financially possible. So I can bring up an example of last year we had a brief for the Fast 10, and our creative team wanted to fly a car off the roof. Business affairs said, hey, that's not allowed legally. We're not going to do that. So we had to table it for another day. So step 6, after we have been briefed in the creative teams and met together, our teams all come together to pitch the idea to the client. And these pitches usually go through rounds of reviews. I've seen some pitches go from only 2 rounds of reviews and go straight into being produced. Or sometimes if we're launching a brand new campaign or platform for different brands, this happens a lot in the new year, or if there's a change in leadership on the client side, those can go up to 7 rounds of reviews to make sure we're putting our best foot forward and we're maximizing the client's money. And when the client is happy, that takes us to step 7. And that's when we bring in our producers. Our producers, if everyone's the glue, the producers are that final step. They are maintaining the budget, they're negotiating contracts, they're creating a timeline, they hire vendors and talent. If there's one person that's phone always stays on, it's going to be the producers. They make sure the work gets done and the show is going. After we get into production, which is filming the product, filming the campaign, filming the spot, a lot of the times the producers and the account team and sometimes strategy will travel to shoot on location with them to make sure we're getting everything that we need, from what we're going to produce on TV to things for organic social media, which is the organic social you see on certain brands. Duolingo is a great example of that. But after all of that, our post producers and editors work to clean it up to make it look like this amazing final product like you saw in the highlight reel. At step 9, we're getting close to the end of the 10 steps of how a campaign comes to life. Our business affairs team does another gut check to make sure that everything is legally compliant and we have the rights for the content, so we're not using someone else's trademark or someone else's property. We don't want to get sued when we're working with big names that are global entities. And then we launched the campaign. The Super Bowl is a really good example that just passed of what happens after you launch a campaign. So if you notice in the Super Bowl, there are a lot of teaser spots to campaigns that just went all out during the Super Bowl, like Verizon, for example, with their teasing Beyonce to unleashing a full spot in the Super Bowl. This is the campaign launch. This is what we all work towards the end. And after that campaign is launched, work is not done. We're at step 10, which is monitoring and reviewing, so making sure all of our decisions prove successful for the client. So that was the breakdown of the agency world, how we brief, how we get to the campaigns in the final spot. So let's take a look at how I got here. Well, I'm a graduate from the University of Memphis. I have a degree in business administration with marketing management and a minor in social media marketing. So I remember my first intro to marketing class at the University of Memphis. I was a student athlete all 4 years, and I was able to intern at a plethora of places to end up here. In my current role as a communication strategist, I've won Pitch of the Year for Kia. I've mentored a winning team to win their pitch for Zero Health. And then at my previous agency, I won the MVP award at Deutsche Welle. My resume at a glance, I had 4 different internships before graduating. I interned at Bridges USA, which is a nonprofit youth leadership organization in Memphis. I interned at C.H. Robinson, which is a third-party logistics shipping company. I interned at the University of Memphis as a professional development intern. And then I interned at Odin Marketing, which is a business-to-business smaller agency in Memphis. The reason I like to include my internships in my resume at a glance is because I want to encourage y'all to intern everywhere so you can figure out where you want to end up in your career when you graduate college. If I hadn't interned at C.H. Robinson, I wouldn't have known that third-party logistics and shipping wasn't for me. If I hadn't interned at Bridges, I wouldn't have found out that nonprofit work wasn't for me. If I hadn't interned at Odin Marketing as my final internship, I wouldn't have had the aspiration to join a larger agency post-graduation. A couple of my career one-offs that don't include behind the desk work. I worked at the front desk at my university, and then I worked at Starbucks throughout college too, and then bartending. I like to include these career one-offs because I think it's so important for you as you enter your career to take into account and consideration of the skills that you learn from your hospitality and service industry jobs into the work. Because ultimately in advertising, our job is people. And I think there's no better people that understand people than people who have been servers or worked in retail or in hospitality. So you really get it. And then my agencies, I've worked at Deutsche LA here in Los Angeles, and now I'm at Goodby, Silverstein and Partners in San Francisco. A couple of the clients I've worked on in my time here include the University of Memphis, Kendall Jackson Wine, Taco Bell, bringing back the Mexican pizza, 23andMe, State Farm, Open Door, Xfinity Mobile and Xfinity, Immersing, which is a Blackstone portfolio company, Specialized Bikes, Samuel Adams, Liberty Mutual, and Truly Hard Seltzer. During my time now at Goodby Silverstein, I focus on these 5 clients, which are Xfinity, Xfinity Mobile, Truly Hard Seltzer, Liberty Mutual Insurance, and Samuel Adams. And I went through that a little bit quicker than I expected. So I can open the floor to questions, or I could walk y'all through a brief so you can see what it's like live.
Are we good about the question, or do you guys have any to start? Yep, go ahead, Sam.
Those 10 steps, he explained before from beginning to end, how long that takes on.
Okay, so I don't know, were you able to hear that question, Robby? Probably not.
Kind of.
So the question was the 10 steps, how long typically does it take to get from 1 to 10?
So it really does depend on the client's timeline. Sometimes we are launching extensions of campaigns that have already been, so those could happen within the period of 2 months. Sometimes it's a full year. So like currently we're planning for 2025 for my brand Truly, and those can take up to a full year because we want to make sure that numbers are coming right from the client. We want to make sure that we're keeping up with the terms. This year especially is not iffy, but different because with it being a political election year, clients are weary about launching anything new. So it really varies based on the campaign flight and what the clients want to do.
So as a communication strategist, you said you're in the strategy group of the 5 groups. Are you involved in all 10 of those steps, or are you involved in specific steps?
So the main steps, our communication at Goodby and Silverstein is very fluid. So our account team will give us a heads up so we can begin our research, especially when it comes to like new business. The steps that we're really not involved in are post-production and production. So our job is to get the plane on the runway and going as fast as it can so it can take off. And once it takes off, it's in the hands of our production team. And then we come back for landing, to put it in an analogy.
Great, thank you. Go ahead. Which step is the most challenging for him? Which step do you find most challenging in your opinion?
I honestly think that step 2 is the most challenging because this is where we have to challenge ourselves and find a creative way in that nobody else is doing, and really own it. I think it's one thing to make decisions based off of data, but you have to bring in your own background and your creativity and insights to help drive that point. Because ultimately there are so many brands doing the same thing, but we want to be the best of the best, which Goodby and Silverstein has been. So it's keeping up to that status quo.
Go ahead, Dee.
That's your question. Thank you. I'm not asking What does he like the most about his job and what he doesn't like the most about?
Okay, she said it in a diplomatic way, but she asked, what do you like the most and the least about your job?
What I enjoy most about my job is the flexibility of being able to work on different clients. So I get to switch my thinking around for when I'm working on a telecom brand versus when I'm working on Truly Hard Seltzer, which is a hard seltzer brand. Most recently, I love some spontaneous trips. Me being in Los Angeles, I got to fly down to Mexico City for one of our video shoots for our newest campaign for Truly. I would say my least favorite part about my job is using Microsoft Teams, if I'm being honest. I can't turn those notifications off, but everything else is pretty fun. It is a fun career. It's exciting. It is interesting to see what we can come up with every day. I think that's what I like most about my job is the ability to be excited about it. I also enjoy my work-life balance as well. Yeah, that's pretty big for me. So.
What perceptions?
His perceptions or, so, what, I guess, the question is, what of your perceptions has changed kind of before you got into the industry to actually doing this work in the industry? Like, I guess, what were you surprised about?
Oh, that's a really good question. I will say, first of all, I can't watch advertisements the same anymore. Every time I see an ad, I'm like, how did they get to that idea? Why did they do that? Or it's like a little bit of a, oh, they copied this idea from somebody else. That's not original. I think my perception in advertising was very much, wow, how do they understand it to, okay, I get how they get me. So when I would see certain ads on Instagram, I'd be like, oh my goodness, they're listening to me. And now working behind the scenes, I'm like, oh no, this is data that they received that we opted in for. This is, these are all decisions being made like it's based off who I am as a person.
So, I have a question. You work with so many different clients. How do you maintain kind of creativity and a unique voice across all those different clients, considering many of the same people are probably working across all these different clients?
Yeah, a lot of it comes from my time outside of work. So kind of keeping like in the back of my head when I see interesting things that could work for a different brand. I could use an example of like the horoscope truck that came to Los Angeles a couple months ago. And I thought that would be an excellent idea to pitch to our Liberty Mutual or Truly team, like reimagining things for it. I think my brain switches is a very dependent, and I'm so grateful for our account team. They are really helpful in making sure everyone is wrangled in the right teams and helping us. So it's not just, we're never just siloed out. So it's like our account team helps keep us accountable. They help make sure that we're on time. They help reinforce what the client is asking, because sometimes, for example, during Super Bowl, everything becomes a cluster and we're all going 100 miles an hour trying to figure out who's on what we're doing. So I think thanks to my account team and then my outside of work, that's really how I change my brain set for each client.
So on that note, sorry, I'm stealing your guys' time. Can you go to the 5 groups again?
Mm-hmm.
Do they require, you mentioned the account team and we've got your team. Do they require different skill sets and different backgrounds and different majors and things like that?
Yeah, so honestly, everything is kind of flexible in the agency. I would say maybe not administration, because that's where finance and legal come in, so you'll need a legal background. But my degree in marketing management got me to strategy because I went into media planning after social media. So for account management, I would say there's people from all different types of backgrounds. I had an account director that had a background in biology that just fell in love with working at the agency world. For creative, they usually do look for people that have had a creative background, not necessarily a degree, in the creative fields, but something along the lines of communications for copywriters, or if they have a portfolio of art direction, whether it's things they did as passion projects, other than that when you're first entering. For strategy, they like to see people that have worked either in paid social media or media planning and buying. But a lot of it for the junior level roles, they will help train you on the spot. You just have to have the grit and want to learn about the world.
So if you have more of an analytics background, is there a particular group that's more appropriate than another?
If you have analytics, I feel like you fit right in with strategy. At other agencies, it might be broken down as a business analytics or business affairs too. But at Goodby and Silverstein, we have a research strategy team which focuses on research and analytics and insights.
Within the strategy group?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, yeah.
What is maybe successful in balancing balance?
What has made you successful and how do you balance, I guess, your time or your with all these different companies that you're doing business with?
Yeah, I think the low-hanging fruit of success is the client being happy. The ultimate success is winning the awards at the end of it. So the can lines, the ad age, being recognized for our work. I think success looks differently on each campaign. I started this conversation off by saying what is my KPI, which is a key performance indicator, and that's a media term. And in strategy, we use KPIs to determine success by saying, did our campaign successfully get X amount of people to sign up, or how many impressions, which are how many people saw, or how many people interacted with our work. That's how we kind of define success from a data point of view. The way I balance it with my personal life, I make sure to take time for myself to step away from work, because when we come forward, it's not just me, it's our entire agency. So it's very much a team effort. It's never just one person that wins the awards or that one person that is pitching. We're going together as a whole group. So I make sure to separate myself outside of work to make sure like, okay, this is how I work.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, do you mind taking us through the sample?
Oh yeah.
That you brought?
So in this presentation or this pitch, you will see, I'm gonna zoom through it because this is usually done with a group of 5 people and there's only one me. But you will see what we presented to Kia for the launch of their EV6. You will see steps 1 through 10. Well, steps 1 through 8 actually, because there is no creativity. This is simply just a pitch. So this is a project that we did for the 4 A's, which is an advertising group, to Kia and their global marketing officer. This is an overlook at our team. This is our agenda. So when we are pitching to clients, we want to ground them in sort of how I started this presentation. We want to ground them in what we're doing and what we're talking about. Oftentimes these stakeholders are in different time zones. It could be the end of the night. We were pitching at 8 p.m. So we were like, we know y'all are tired, but we have some great work for you.
Robby, can I interrupt one sec?
Absolutely.
Is this a client that was already your client and you're pitching them on a new idea, or is this someone you're pitching to become your client to begin with?
This was through the 4 A's program, and we were pitching for them to become our client.
Okay.
Essentially what 4 A's is a an advertising group across the US, and they have different cohorts, and they bring in young professionals to help build their skill sets in the advertising world. And this happened to be the pitch for Kia for their EV6, and our team ultimately won it. So we would, if we were pitching it as an agency as a whole, we would have won the business. But it went to David and Goliath, who was the actual company that was funding the.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Cool. So the challenge, this is kind of that step 1. This is what the client brought to us. So they wanted to develop an integrated campaign for the Kia EV6 to set the tone to appeal to young, affluent buyers, which they labeled as the creators of tomorrow. If you remember the 10 steps, this is step 1. So the account team received this from the client, and then we took it into our strategy team. We then reminded the clients of what the parameters were. So we wanted to make sure that we were aligning with their global platform, which was Movement That Inspires. We wanted to support their vision of sustainable mobility. And then we wanted to remind them of the money. So we had $15 million for a 12-month launch beginning in May of 2022. So after we grounded the clients in what they asked us to do, we dived right into our research. So this is across the board for all agencies usually. This is where the strategists come in. So we take a look at so many different things. We do secondary research, we put on focus groups, we did surveys, we did one-on-one interviews, we even do dealership visits. To put into context for my current clients, for Truly, for example, we'll do the same thing. If they're launching a new flavor, we have test groups that will actually test the new flavor and give their feedback. We'll show them different spots that we're thinking of launching creatively. We'll go visit things like the Seltzery, which is located in LA if we can. And so these are all things that make our decisions. Then we look at the competitive set. So with brands like Kia, like Truly, like BMW, there's always a competitor. So we want to know where we are and where we land in that competitive set. Then we look at where we stand out. So for this example, Kia had the quickest charging time. They had won awards for innovative design, and then they had a record driving performance. We let the client know that we even went to go test drive the cars and everything, because you can't really know a product until you see it for yourself. And then we grounded the client on where they fall in line with their competitors. So we had the aspirational group and that were hybrids. So that Audi Q5, we had the aspirational group and all electric vehicles, which were Teslas. And then we had the accessible hybrid group, which were Priuses, and Kia fell in line with this mid-tier aspirational group that was all electric. Through all that research, we had survey takeaways. So making sure that we were providing the data that we vetted to show to the clients, this is what we have taken away from it. We even included quotes to make sure they knew that we were talking about real people, because at the end of the day, we want to be talking to a real person, not a number or a chart. So all that research gives us to our target audience. Our target audience is who we're talking to. So target audience is when you are, like I said before, when you are scrolling through and you feel like this ad is talking to me. How did they know I want this? Well, the research that we showed, all of that. And so using tools like MRI Simmons, which is a survey, we sized our audience to a group of green, so eco-friendly, 25 to 34-year-olds that were affluent, which was defined as making 110K or more, at about 6.9 million. So that's who we're trying to get. So not this larger number of 45 million. We're trying to talk to 6.9 million people and get them to understand about the Kia EV6. So taking all that research, we kind of made a one-sheeter of who they are. These are all demographics for them. So we know that they're early 30s, they skewed male, they were homeowners in a serious relationship. They were trying to grow in their career, make a greener choice, and live an exciting life. So we all know somebody like this. Let's create an actual person. And these are stock images, but these are kind of to ground the people, our client, in who we are talking to make sure they understand we know our audience. So we had Devin, who was the commissioner of his fantasy football league. He lived with his girlfriend and had plans to propose soon. He hates calling himself a workaholic, but he's definitely working on the weekend for that big promotion. And we had Evelyn, who sticks to a routine that helps her get as much done as possible. She has a rotation of podcasts she likes to listen to. And that's important because when we're making those media decisions, we want to know that we're actually targeting people where they're going to be listening and watching. And then combining both of them, they're looking for easy ways to upgrade their life. They like the idea of electric vehicles, but they don't feel knowledgeable enough to purchase one. So we've created a person. Now we're looking at their touch points and interests. So where can we meet them? That's where communication strategy comes in. And that's really my role. So knowing that someone is indexing really high, which means they are more likely to on gaming, podcasts, and streaming music. That means we're going to be placing ads on areas like Twitch and Spotify, even YouTube. And then for social media, travel, adventure, and sports, social media, that means we'll take into account Meta and ads on Meta and TikTok. travel and adventure, maybe we're going to do something on Waze or the Expedia app. And then sports, maybe we are creating out-of-home billboards right outside the biggest arenas for this audience because that's what they're most interested in. So we walked you through the brief, what the client asked for, what the research is saying, and who the audience is. All that comes into our insights, which kind of drives into the creatives. So this is about step 4. This is what we give to the creatives, our insights. So we know that they're highly educated, but they don't feel knowledgeable about electric vehicles. We know that they're ready for that next chapter of their life. And we know that they're making progress in their careers, but they have this sense of uncertainty. All these are the insights. And once I'll pause here, because this is what we would give to our creative team, right? Then the creative team comes back with the big idea or their creative, depending on what the clients ask for, if it's a TV ad or social ad or a radio script, the creatives will then take these insights and research that we give to them and come back with something. After that, after the creatives have come back to us, we remind the clients of all that research and everything, and this thing called the get to buy, which is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and yeah, what and how we're going to do it. So we're going to get the affluent 25 to 35-year-olds to rebrand their perception by showing them how the Kia EV6 fits in their lifestyle. And there's this thing that comes into pitch called pitch theater, where we like put on a performance. This is where we're selling the idea into the client. And at this moment, we are talking to senior executives who have upgraded their cars plenty of times, but we wanted to take them back to the moment that they upgraded to their very first like new car, putting them in the mindset of our audience. So really selling them on the point of this is speaking to the youth that was upgrading to their first car, because that's who we're speaking to. Through that, our big idea and a creative idea was the Level Up campaign, using the EV6 as the E and the second E is the Level Up, making sure that we were talking to the audience that was ready to level up. And then typically we wouldn't go through media strategy with the client. Then in there, the creatives would then bring in their scripts for TV from the copywriters, one-sheeters of how the art direction could look based off that idea, and all that jazz. I'll pause right there before I go into media because that's a whole separate conversation. Any questions on the research methodology or the brief or those initial first steps?
What are those eyes? It's key.
What does the I mean? It's a 160 eyes.
Like with all the chat.
So it's indexing. So MRI Simmons is a research data tool, and the index is 100. So that means it's just normal. Anything over 100 means the audience is more likely to do that or aligns more with that. So MRI Simmons has statements like, I work on the weekends, or my family's the most important thing to me. I consider myself a foodie. Even things like I listen to NPR podcasts from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., you know, so all that. So we take that audience, and if it over indexes over 100, the I, that's what we use to build our insights.
So like an index of 125 means that group is 25% more likely to do whatever than the average population.
Exactly.
How much, a lot of time and money goes into these pitches because you're spending a lot of your agency's time on pretty advanced ideas and research. About how long does a typical pitch take to prep for?
I think it depends on whether it's a new business pitch, which is we are introducing the client to our entire agency philosophy and work, versus a pitch for a new campaign with a client. So I will use Super Bowl as an example. Most times, Super Bowl comes at the same time every year. Most times, clients will brief in the team at around October or November, or even sooner, depending on how big or what they're going to plan on launching for the Super Bowl. So it really just depends.
Any other questions so far? Okay.
Cool. So that takes into media strategy. So this is where analytics and research come into play. This is where communication strategists really thrive. Media strategy can be summed up as the places that you see ads. So social media, billboards, even if you're walking down the street and you see guerrilla marketing, so someone spray painted a logo to announce a new tour. It's the planes that fly. It's the buses that are completely labeled in an ad. It's the transit signs that are digital. That's what media strategy is, figuring out where we're going to place it and how and why. So our media strategy plan for this campaign was broken into 3 phases. The first one focused on educating and knowledge. The second one is teaching them how to integrate it into their lifestyle. And the third one is getting them to drive. For this campaign, we really didn't focus on that because it's hard to get people. There was a car shortage, if you all remember, a couple years ago. And this grand big graph kind of overviews everything. If you look at the top left, we have upper funnel. So that's the things, I think an earlier question was, how do we measure success? When we're looking at upper funnel things, we're looking at impressions, so views, how many people can recall our ads, how many people are watching our videos, how many people are mentioning us on social, what the sentiment is. And we go all the way to the right, which is lower funnel. So really getting people to go to the website, go to the dealerships, go actually get our product, you know? This is an overlook at budget. Shout out to all the finance majors. I did not touch this. This is where the financial team and production team would come in and let us know if we're over budget, under budget, or if we have extra money to allocate. And then research comes in again into play when we look at where we're going to target our audience. So DMA stands for designated market areas. Because we were pitching an EV6, we looked at areas that had a lot of EV people that were leaning more to hybrids and EVs rather than places like Oklahoma or San Antonio or a lot of cities on the Eastern Seaboard, which focus more on public transit. That takes us into our always on media. So at this time, Netflix had just announced their first ad offering. We were like, we're going to be first to advertise on Netflix. We'll be the pre-roll for all the YouTube videos that people are watching, especially like whether it's food or like car things. We'll be on Twitch, Peacock, and Hulu. We'll have banners along, which is called standard display. These are the ads that you see when you're scrolling on your phone and computer. Sometimes if you're trying to read an article, they'll pop up and take over your entire screen. Those are called high impact units, and they're put there on purpose. And then a microsite just to drive people there. And so when we get in, that was just the always on media. So like just to cover our grounds with and lay the foundation, like we'll always have media going. Now we get into the bigger activations. This is where creative and strategy work together to see how it can actually work. So going into the social world, creating a Billy on the Street style interview, targeting people on their podcast, adding pre-roll ads and host reads, and then meeting people where they are. So our audience loved music, they loved the thrills of life. So what better way than to meet them at an existing festival or lounge? So creating this lounge, concept lounge, for them to recharge and learn more about this vehicle. So when you see really cool activations at Coachella or Rolling Loud or even outside lands, just know there's a strategy behind it, and that's why it's there. Then leveling up your lifts, so encouraging people to try the vehicle for themselves with Lyft's self-driving event. And that was phase 1, which is really focused on impressions and everything. Phase 2 is just more activation. So James Corden was at the time announcing his last show for Carpool Karaoke. So partnering with him, once again, this was a concept, it was not actually made. Giving priority parking to SoFi Stadium. So meeting them if we're launching in Los Angeles, meeting them where they are, giving them priority parking so they don't have to park in the very huge parking lot of SoFi Stadium far away, and even a meet and greet with their quarterback at a time. And then tapping into culture. So National Drive Electric Week, which was September through October. And then the final step of that media plan was getting them into the EV6. So encouraging paid search to get people to actually find out where the nearest dealership is, and even creating extensions to get them to just one click to get there. Then, of course, evergreen social ads, which goes into our first step, which is always on media. And this summary slide just breaks down where and how we're going to show up and why we're doing it. Everything else is the why. Of course, measurement, I think the previous conversation, question about success, this is how we kind of determine success from a strategy point of view with data. We're looking at social mentions, test drives. Is our brand showing up in the right spaces? Are we showing up in the safe spaces? So if I can relate it back to Xfinity, we don't want to be showing and taunting a Wi-Fi offering after a really bad storm has passed an area, you know, so making sure brands are showing up in the right places and being culturally relevant. A quick summary, and that pitch normally would take 45 minutes to an hour. I think I did it in 15 minutes. So, but I'll open it up to questions about that or the previous presentation.
Yeah, Brandon.
Do you ever have to like eat what?
You mean before the pitch or after the pitch?
You can't.
Oh, are you ever on lockdown with secrets when you're pitching a new client that you need to keep it quiet?
Yeah, so NDAs are a very common practice, especially when celebrities come into play, or even when they're launching something that's brand new. We are under contract, which is where business affairs comes into play too.
How do you handle competitive clients? So how do you determine who's a direct competitor versus an indirect competitor?
I think we benchmark against everyone. So for Kia, we knew that we weren't going to go up against Porsche, for example. We were going against Nissan, Hyundai, and Volkswagen. So it's looking at where we land in the set and like, so who's doing something similar to us and where we show up. That's how we determine who our competitors are.
But your agency couldn't work with two car companies, or you could?
I think that is a conflict of interest, so I don't think they'd be able to.
Any questions? So I'll close it up with the last question, and then if you have anything additional to add, we'd love to hear it. But my last question is going to be, what you would recommend if a student is interested, doesn't necessarily need to be a marketing student, but if a student is interested in this industry, whether it's from a finance or an analytics or an accounting or a marketing perspective, what would you recommend they do now as students to try to get closer to this industry so that their job prospects are a little bit more open for them over the next few years?
I'd recommend interning. That's the biggest thing. I hope in New Jersey, a lot of internships are paid. I know they were when I was in Tennessee. But interning and exploring the options that you need. Sometimes I would find an agency that you're interested in, like Goodby, Silverstein and Partners has the Academy, which is dedicated to helping build up the portfolios of college students. I would look into programs like that. I would even reach out to recruiters that are at different agencies to see if they have programs like that, just to get your kind of foot, not foot in the door yet, but like eyes on the window, you know? And then on top of that, I would just talk to other people if you can find them on LinkedIn. It doesn't hurt to reach out to people that might be working in the field that you look at. I would look at Ad Age and other sites like that to see what companies are doing the work that you would want to do, whether it's finance or if it's creative or even if it's strategy, looking at that site to figure out what you want to do.
Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we let you start your day?
Just keep on keeping on, y'all. This is an exciting chapter. I would encourage all of y'all to try everything that you can while you're in undergrad, intern everywhere, look at different capabilities. The agency world is really fun. I have been enjoying my time in here the past 4 years at agencies. It's an exciting field. There's travel. The work-life balance is amazing. That's really big for me. And yeah, that's really it. Just keep on keeping on.
So what's amazing about it? Because it seems like you're working really hard and the work kind of, it gets intense during key times.
Yeah, I
So
think
how do you balance? Yeah.
I think the amazing part for me is like when we see an idea come to life. For example, I didn't work on this campaign, but the Lunchables Lunch-a-Build campaign, which was an insight that kids played with their food, and now there are buses that look like these Lunchables because kids were playing with it. So seeing things come to life is kind of the amazing part about it. Yeah.
Sorry, I meant the work-life balance.
Oh.
Quickly. I was wondering how that happens.
Just being able to get my work done and having a great team. We all work together. There have been some long nights, but I can count on like both hands how many long across media planning, like across all agencies, how many like super long nights and early mornings there are. And that comes from like having clients in different time zones too. We're all working towards the same goal. And we're all working hard.
Great. It seems very team-based and very balanced between creative and strategy, both.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you. Please join me in thanking Robby for
Thank you all.
his early morning with us, and Melinda for helping to set this up through the AEF. So Robby, I really appreciate, and we're able to share your slides with, you've already sent them to me, but I can share them with the class as well.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day, and thank you guys.
All right, everyone. Have a great
Take
rest of your
care.
day.
Bye-bye.